Hey there, it's author and attorney Kelly O'Connell with Knockout Radio and shoveling up some weird news and politics for you today. Today's message is titled Defective Democrat Nominees Provide Absolute Proof of Leftism's Smugly Destructive Cult. And subheading, Do Biden's Poor Candidates Denote a Fixation with Failure? And what I'm really getting at is the really bad nominees that Biden has brought into his government, and the question in my mind is he bringing these people in there because he can't find anybody better? Is he doing it just to try to make Republicans and mainstream America pissed? Or is he trying to use these people to destroy America? And it could be all of the above. But first, alligator stories for you. And the most recent one, and this is from Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. 32-year-old man was arrested for multiple crimes after police caught him swinging a stolen alligator around by its tail in order to, quote, teach it a lesson. William Hodge, fisherman, was seen at roughly 3:21 a.m. trying to throw a live gator onto the building roof, and he had been seen taking the gator by its tail, hitting it against an awning, slamming the alligator to the ground, and stomping on it twice. And Hodge had actually jumped into a business, Congo River Golf and Exploration, and grabbed an alligator to teach alligators in general a lesson, I guess. And but when the police came, he just put up his hands. He was arrested. When they put him in the jail cell, he intentionally flooded the jail cell with toilet water by filling the bowl with watered up toilet paper and repeatedly flushing. And when he was confronted, he said he would flood the whole place. So I guess this is a guy who's always trying to teach other people a lesson. I don't know what the lesson with flooding the toilet was, but there's 1.25 million alligators living in this state of Florida, and it is illegal to poach them by definition. All right, here's a second story. And there's three stories here. This one is a story about a guy who had gotten bored in traffic and decided to jump into a river. All right, so this Louisiana man was bored in traffic, and this was on the 12th of July, just a few days ago. He got up after sitting for a couple of hours after a traffic or during a traffic accident that had stopped traffic. He was on a bridge. He got up suddenly out of his vehicle. He ran over to the side of the bridge that he was on and jumped, and it happened to be 100 feet long to the bottom, 100 feet down. It was alligator-infested water in the river, and it took hours to find him. His name, Jimmy Ivan Jennings, jumped from the Basin Bridge into the Atchafalaya River, and 26-year-old splashed down, couldn't swim because the water was too strong. He said it took him between 2.5 and 3 hours, judging on his watch, to finally swim to the shore, but it was actually an island, and he was there for quite a while afterwards. He, and this is part of Interstate 10, but he was then arrested, and he said that he was saved by God, and it was very hectic to try to stay alive. And he says, quote, "We were bored inside the truck. I looked down at the water. Didn't seem too far. As soon as my fingertips came off the side, it was like, oh my God, this was the stupidest idea." And he said he was high on life. Everything was going my way, and I've seen people do it before. I remember after I jumped that it was in movies. Once I hit the water, my mouth busted open. I hurt my leg and my arm, my left arm. So anyway, he said that he had asked God for forgiveness and had forgiven everybody that he needed to afterwards. So, very crazy story. And you can find this in the Daily Mail. I'm trying to see anything else. But that anyway, so, and that just happened. He was shocked when the police came up and stuck their guns in his face. Now, here's your third story, and this one's a little bit sadder. F that alligator, the man says. Now, a guy went, and this is 2015 in Texas. 28-year-old Texas man was attacked and killed by an alligator almost immediately after being warned by a bystander not to swim in the water, replying, F that alligator, before jumping in. And an employee at Burkhart's Marina in Orange, Texas said, I asked him, please don't go swimming. There's a bigger alligator out there. Just please stay out of the water. Next thing I don't know how long it was, I saw his body floating face down, and he's up there for a couple of seconds and gets dragged back down and pulled off. And they said it was a 11-foot gator. Now get this. This is the first gator death in Texas in 2 centuries. I mean, so anyway, stay away from the gators, my friends. All right, so getting to this story. Defective Democrat nominees provide absolute proof of leftism, smugly destructive cult. It seems like the only thing that the Democrats are interested in doing now is destroying the country enough that they can completely take it over. And so I watched a number of these interviews for appeals court judges on YouTube, and you can't help but admire Senator Josh Hawley. He's a very smart guy. He was a assistant. He was a clerk for John Roberts, head of the Supreme Court, so you know he's top-notch. Tom Cotton, also. Ted Cruz is just magnificent. But nothing more entertaining than John Kennedy's homespun wit when he was dealing with Myrna Perez, and he said, I understand you've been advised to say precedent. When in doubt, is it raining outside precedent, but it inhibits our ability to have a rational discussion. And so I've got that little clip for you right here.
Know that. And I understand that you've been advised to say precedent. When in doubt, is it raining outside? Precedent. But it inhibits our ability to have a rational discussion.
Okay, so you heard that, and I thought it was a pretty good point that he made. And the woman was just very smug. She was working at this Brennan Institute. She's still a worker there. She's still an employee, and she's been attacking all of these different cases. And then when they ask her about the cases, she says, I can't say anything about it. And they said, well, you ask her about a case, and she said, I can't say anything about that. So you've got this infuriating situation where this lady has written all of these highly critical articles about these cases, and then so they know what she thinks of it. And when they get her in front of the Senate to interview her, she pretends, she says, I'll only use precedent. It doesn't matter how I feel about these cases. It's irrelevant. I'm just going to use precedent. Everything had the answer of precedent. She did have, an impressive helmet of hair. And I think she thought she was very witty, and the Democrats were over the moon, but it really looked bad for Biden. It looked bad for his people, because it seems like everybody they get is not competent or feels like they have to lie to sneak into the government. So she was just aggravating, and I think that if you can't get good people that are independently minded into these appeals court positions, then you don't have any hope of having good law. The law won't matter because the judge is going to ruin the law. Or you're not going to have good court experiences for important cases because everything becomes about Marxism, Leninism, Stalinism, Maoism, whatever you want to call it, socialism, progressivism, liberalism, leftism. So it's kind of like her partisanship was so silly, it would be like Rosie O'Donnell going in for a Biden cabinet interview for the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and pretending she had no strong opinions on guns. And you remember when she had attacked Tom Selleck, who was a very, very urbane and friendly person, and she cheap-shotted him. And I saw this, and he really held his own and made her look like a fool, which she turned out to be. In later, she was no longer the Queen of Nice. She was pretty damn spicy, the Queen of Spicy. So she had said that Pérez had said when Kennedy, he's from Louisiana too, he although I doubt he's jumped into alligator-infested waters, but or maybe he did when he went to the Senate. I'm sure you're going to say that, when he went to D.C. Now, he asked her, are you going to be looking to find new rights in the cases that come in front of you? And she said no. And he says, well, it seems like that's the kind of person you are. And he says, I think you're going to kind of sneak in here, and then on every Thursday you're going to try to find a new right in it. And he said, do you find new rights in the Constitution? She says no. And he says, well, they're already there. And she goes, yes. So it's immaterial whether you say they're there or not, or you find them, because you're going to find them that they're already in there, if you see what I mean. So she couldn't say anything because these issues might come before her in the court. So she doesn't say anything, which gets rid of the idea of having a hearing in the first place. She just sounded like a very smug and self-satisfied fool. So, we've got to do something up here, and we've got to try to save the nation. And so how are we going to do that? Well, the Biden theory, I believe, is you can't lose if you're Biden, because whether the things that you do are popular or not, they're making America less likely to succeed in its traditional position of being a world leader, world capitalism leader, world leader for rights and for constitutionalism and everything. If you imagine what America has achieved since it was built, it's just so staggering. And we've had the blessing of God, but these people are godless and they hate traditional America. And so their idea is that we're going to fail upwards. Well, now you've got this really weird situation where they're doing everything they can to bring as many illegals across the border as possible. They're not even hiding it anymore. 200,000 people a month or more. 2 million, 2.5 million a year. So, but the Cubans are rioting in Cuba, and they want to leave because they've been living under 50, 75 years of socialism, and they're sick of starving to death, and they're sick of not being able to have any freedom. But the Biden administration will not let them come in like they're doing on the border, even though their argument for leaving Cuba is much stronger than any person in a South American country, because Cuba is an actual communist state, and the people there are getting killed, and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Cubans have been killed over the years. So, and I thought, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is the people coming up on the southern border are going to be they're default leftists. As soon as they get in, and Biden's going to give them the right to vote, even though he's going to have to try to figure out a way to make them citizens and give them the vote at the same time, so they don't lose in Arizona anymore, so they don't lose in Texas, so they don't lose in Florida. But the Cubans are going to be default Republicans, because they know that leftism doesn't work. They know socialism, Marxism doesn't work, and it's monstrous. And so they're going to support the anti-communist party, which is the Republicans. So you can't allow these two things to happen at once. But to be fair, we should be able to bring 2 million Cubans in and become citizens. and let's balance it out a little bit. I mean, Cuban people, I lived with them down in Miami. They're beautiful people, very smart, hardworking. And you would be hard-pressed to find a more creative and artsy and hardworking and honest and sincere people. All right, so what are we going to do? An unavoidable conclusion from the Democrats and their candidates, Biden and other leftists. They scoff at Republicans and conservatives. They believe themselves to be intellectually and morally superior. But even if that laughable canard lie, in other words, were not true, the left's habit of confusing ideology for practice or praxis and exquisite moral preening for wisdom has created an extraordinarily reckless and dangerous moment in U.S. history. Therefore, my friends, listen to this. From Cato the Elder's phrase, Carthago delande est, Carthage must be destroyed, which he finished every speech with, I propose for you, and prudence itself dictates we must assert, liberali delanda est, which I'm interpreting here, leftism must be destroyed. To save America, liberali delanda est, leftism must be destroyed. Thank you for listening in. Please subscribe. If you haven't already, give it a thumbs up if you like the message. I hope you had a wonderful day after this. I hope you do. And come back soon. I'm going to have some more. I'm going to have a couple more messages this weekend. Thank you. Kelly O'Connell, Knockout Radio. Ciao.